and that is that Billy is willing to take questions while he's giving his talk, but we will have to watch the chat for him because he's going to be busy talking and can't be looking at the chat at the same time, which I thoroughly understand. We won't address all of the questions because some of them are just going to be things like, oh, that's wonderful and that's terrific. And those will all stay in the chat, but we don't want to take the time to say that. So actual questions, Lauren and I will keep an eye out on the chat and call on you. When we do, we'd ask that you unmute yourself, ask your question through the discussion, and then mute yourself back again. That would be great. Jean Hess now is going to introduce our speaker, and then we will go ahead and hear his wonderful words and see his wonderful pictures.
All set?
All set. Go, Jean.
It gives me a great deal of pleasure to introduce Billy Renkl. He is a sharer, I know from personal experience, and he's a teacher who loves to learn from his students. He is a professor of drawing and illustration at Austin Peay University in Clarksville, Tennessee, and his serious credentials as a disciplined artist are that he has a BFA in visual communications from Auburn University and an MFA in drawing from the University of South Carolina. Interestingly, Billy has 2 resumes. He takes his skills in what might seem like different directions because he is, first of all, the creator of commercial or client-based illustration, and he also produces fine art for exhibition. But he himself has told me the work itself isn't especially different. It isn't as if I have 2 voices. When a client contacts me, it's because they specifically want something that is handmade, an antidote to all the digital illustration out there. His commercial clients include, this is a short list, the New York Times, Vanderbilt University, Southwest Airlines. Now, in some cases, a client might be a relative or a friend. He has produced wonderful illustrations for a book, the book is titled Late Migrations, A Natural History of Love and Loss, and it's by his sister, Margaret Renkl. It came out in 2019, and we'll try to publish some links for you all if you wish to find it online. Billy has had solo shows in a wide variety of places. So just a few recent ones are the Smith Museum of Art at Auburn University, the Manifest Creative Research Center in Cincinnati, Ohio, the Indianapolis Art Center, the Customs House Museum in Clarksville, Tennessee, Berea College, and the Frist Center in Nashville. In some cases, a client, wait a minute, I'm sorry. I promised I'd keep this short. Billy Renkl is known to a lot of us as an accomplished collage artist. And he says that he's captivated mostly by what he calls the former life of materials. I would call that the story that the materials tell. And he explains, unlike paints, where you might think that the tube of blue paint doesn't mean anything until the painter makes a bluebird, collage materials always come into the studio with a lot of baggage. Even if a viewer can't tell where a fragment came from, I usually know that, and it has a huge impact on how I use those materials. Billy Renkl is nationally respected. The well-known Collage Group has included him as a presenter, most recently in the Collage Knoxville event. I asked him, and he unfortunately will not be at the Collage Symposium in New Orleans because he has just been given a residency at the Virginia Center for the Creative Arts. So without further ado, let me introduce Billy Renkl.
Thank you very much for that generous welcome, Jean. I'm really grateful for that. And thank you to all of you for allowing me this opportunity to talk to you. I have not ever talked about my work with a group of collage artists before, and had to sort of rethink my talk a little bit. I do want to say I haven't ever given a talk on Zoom before. And I'm used to being able to read the room about whether I should speed up or slow down or skip something. And I can't do that here. So if this seems more awkward than your speakers usually are, that's just my natural awkwardness. And as Barbara said, I teach, and I've done just like a huge amount of teaching through Zoom in the last 2 years. And I am just constitutionally incapable of reading a comment thread and talking at the same time. And so like, I appreciate your patience with that. So does that say soaked and nothing
Perfect.
else? Great.
That's great.
So I'm going to just show my cards. Also, I would appreciate if someone would like obviously tell me my time is up, because once I get started, I can be wound up, and I have many more slides than I can probably talk about. I'll just stop whenever you tell me to stop. I'm going to show my cards all at once at the beginning and tell you basically this is how I make my work. There's not really any mystery to it. I'm out in a junk store and I find something that's interesting made out of paper and I bring it back to the studio and it gives me an idea. Or I read something and I go down to the studio and find some paper that'll help me think about that thing that I've read. It's really just those two processes, and you'll see them both at work in my work. Also, I'm just going to answer this question from the start because it seems like anytime there are two or more collages together, there's a potential argument about which glue they use. I am on team matte gel medium. And I won't say why, but if you want to have that conversation later, I'm happy to do that. I'm going to start with my origin story. I listen to a lot of artists talk. We have a robust visiting artists series where I teach. And I'm always interested in how people started. I'm not sharing my origin story as an artist. That involves a nun named Sister Mary Angela and kindergarten, and I'll save that for another time. I'm going to talk about collage instead. The image on the left is something I painted when I was a senior in high school, and I grew up in Alabama, and my dad didn't go to college. My mom grew up on a peanut farm, and neither had been exposed to art very much. And my sense through them is that this is really sort of the best you could aspire to. And I was going to go to college and be the best darn barn painter in Alabama. Something my professors gently disabused me of pretty quickly. The image on the right, I studied illustration, and the image on the right is from my senior thesis. That's the kind of illustration I was doing when I was graduating. But I want to talk about a moment in between those 2 points. There was a semester when I took 2 classes at the same time. I mean, I had a host, but these two seemed to have something to say to each other. And one was on the right, an image from, it was an art history class in the Northern Baroque. And I also took an anatomy and physiology class to satisfy my science requirement. And I was super interested in the way that my fellow students thought about the images in those classes. None of the other art majors particularly wanted to paint like Vermeer and didn't really look at the images. They would just say like, oh, the light's from the left, and so it's got to be Vermeer, and they would just move on. Whereas in science, like everybody looked at those images in the textbook really fiercely, intensely, and talked about them and explained them to each other in study sessions. And I was really struck by the difference in how the two groups of students were thinking about images. I had assumed that art were the most important images, but these other images, it turned out, like had a kind of authority that my fellow students really gravitated toward and took seriously. And I spent a long time thinking about that. That anatomy and physiology class like was very transformative. I didn't turn into like a physician or anything, but it was the most moving class I took. This is from my notebook, and we'll see those lungs later on. I do want to mention that the moment I remember most clearly from this biology class was a film, like an actual film, like 8mm or something, projected in the classroom. The camera was looking down into the chest of someone in the middle of open heart surgery, and their heart was beating with incredible power, like almost violence, like freed from the constraints of the rib cage. I couldn't believe how strong that was, and could almost think of nothing else than that powerful thing was going on in my body, like all day long, every day for my entire life. I also took a class that semester that we studied King Lear. And this is from my notebook, and this is from the next page. I love that it says there in all caps in the middle, what do things mean? And I'm still working on that 40 years later. I have such affection for that 19-year-old wandering around campus, sort of dazed and like thinking about his heart beating and wondering what things mean. Also, you might wonder that I have my notebooks from my college biology class, but my guess is that a bunch of you do also. You can't really be a collage artist unless you're willing to save stuff like that. This is a photo of my friend Gary in college, and I was working on a project for an advanced drawing class, and I don't remember the assignment, but my solution involved doing some drawings of Gary's hands. Only Gary was very busy, and I couldn't get him into the studio. And so I went to see him on my bike. This is before cell phones, in the library. He was working at the information desk. That was his student job. And we couldn't work out a time, and the drawing was due soon. And I realized right next to the information desk was a photocopier. And I thought, well, like in a pinch, I can photocopy his hand and go back to the studio and draw it. So I did. I had a couple of dimes in my pocket, and I went back to the studio and realized I should just glue the Xeroxes onto the drawing. I didn't need to redraw it. It took me a long time to really learn that lesson, but I understood it like briefly then, that if I'd drawn his hands, that would have at least partly been about me. And I wanted the drawing to be about him. And the Xerox like was a witness to his physical presence in a way that my drawing could not be. Like it couldn't exist without his body present, next to the copier. And that turns out to have been sort of crucial. I'm going to jump forward 10 years, and I was in a residency in Switzerland, and I had worked out through graduate school a way of working that involved making collages. This is one of those, making collages mostly that employed the kind of authoritative images that I thought about in science class. In this case, it's from a botany book. It's the cross section of a apricot blossom before it's opened. And this is called planning the argument he would use. I'm sure I was thinking about my dad and arguing with him. But I would do a collage like this, which let me think through the image, and I wouldn't show the collage. I would then do a painting or a drawing. And so collage was really a way of sketching for me. And so that I could quote those authoritative images, like from a botany book, but I was still making the thing. And I had done that for a long time. Here's another example. It's a tiny piece, maybe 1.5 inches high and 3 inches wide. The original illustration in a geography book that was long out of date was explaining to kids how it looks like a ship sails over the edge of the ocean, but it doesn't really, because the surface of the earth is curved. But the geography book was in a junk store, And it certainly didn't need to convince anybody of that point anymore. And I thought, like, what if I repurpose it and use some of that authority, but like, let it say something poetic instead about how sometimes someone does sail away from you, and it is as if they have sailed off the edge of the planet. And then this was the drawing that I made based on that. Here's a close-up of that. So while I was in Switzerland, I spent a lot of time thinking about the Alps, because the Swiss are super focused on the Alps, and it was on the train tickets. It was really on everything. And I thought I should make a collage about the Alps while I'm here and how they're so central to the Swiss experience. And I thought I would start with a collage made out of the pages from an atlas, a kid's atlas of the Alps that I found in a junk store also. And my first thought was I would cut up a map, not this one, but another one, and reconfigure it as a human heart. These squares are 1/8 of an inch. It's not very successful. It doesn't look like a human heart. So I had to try again. So I thought instead I'll switch to 1/4 inch squares, which would allow me to more carefully control the distribution of lights and darks. And this is a leftover page from when I made this work. And it's pretty messy up close, but I was able to step back, and possibly it's because I was like outside of my life. I was in Switzerland and in a little town where no one spoke English, and I was alone, spending all day long in the studio. And I had some clarity and realized that, when I looked at it, realized that this had a precision that my drawings didn't have. And like that afternoon, I stopped making the drawings and have been this was 1993, and have just been making collages since then. I did have some other clarity. I realized it was the last time that I wanted to be that far away from the woman that I was dating, and that I would come home and propose, though it took me 2 years to get to that. As Jean mentioned, I think a lot about how most artists think that they're in charge of the content of the work. And I don't really think that's true. I think even a tube of blue paint, if it's ultramarine blue, like then it's got this history about being based on a color that was mined in Afghanistan. Everything has meaning attached to it. I came away from King Lear with that. But like as a shortcut way of thinking, we think that most art materials don't have a meaning until the artist uses them to do something meaningful. And that's not ever true of collages. The very first collages that sort of made their way into the fine art world, I know collage was going on much longer than that, in the form of scrapbooks or Valentines, or in certainly in cultures outside of the European American tradition. But in the European American tradition, these very earliest collages, the one on the left is by Brock, and is maybe the first fine art collage in the European tradition from late September of 1912. An image on the right is by Picasso. That those materials were meaningful from the start. Brock's grandfather had been a wallpaperer, and the fact that he's using this pre-printed wallpaper that is a fake version of wood paneling, so that sort of the bourgeois could imagine that they had a house that they couldn't really afford. Like all of that is meaningful. And I'm assuming that they knew that. In the bottom part of the Picasso image, it says Les Jeux, which is a fragment of a newspaper banner, Le Journal. And he does this a bunch of times, where he truncates the word journal to say jeu, which I don't speak French, but I understand from historians is a pun on the verb jouer, to play, or like a shortened version of the word game. And so clearly Picasso is playing a game, and he names it that over and over again. He's not just making an attractive thing to look at, he's making something interesting to think about at the same time. A couple more pieces that I find these dazzlingly handsome. The title of my talk comes from this quote by Guillaume Apollinaire, who's a symbolist poet, and I think the first person to write formally about collage in the European tradition. Just the next year, he wrote, I think not about Picasso and Braque, I think he was talking about Juan Gris, but he says, like in defense, it's legitimate to use these found objects and images as pictorial elements. They're new in art, but they're already soaked with humanity. And like, I really feel this, that the materials in a collage, like there's no point fighting that. Like they all already mean something. It's like, if you want to use them and not acknowledge that, it's like inviting somebody to a dinner party, but not asking them about like anything about their prior life before they came to the conversation. And much of my work, I think obviously recalls that. This is a piece, to me, it doesn't make sense unless it's clear that it's an old scientific image that was made for education, and some of which I've taken out and replaced with, on one side, flowers that came from greeting cards, very sweet greeting cards, and on the other side, a map of the heavens. And I like thinking about the fact that somebody 75 years ago looked at that map and tried to figure out where Orion's belt was, that's folded into the physical existence of that object. This piece is about being in love. And I'm not sure which of those is me and which is my wife, or maybe it switches. This will give you an idea about the way I think. This is I guess, I don't know if it's vintage or antique, like a not very well cared for field guide to wildflowers with the intent of making them identifiable. And, looking at this book, I was thinking about the fact that, nature grows in reckless abandon, but those plants have been teased out and really carefully organized and ordered in order to make the information like rational and available. And like, what if I cut all these flowers out and put them back into a meadow, which this is the resulting work of that. It's slightly three-dimensional. The tops of the plants are lifted up by painted wooden beads, and then the stems are glued to the substrate. Knowing that these flowers like came from this book that was well used in trying to identify the wildflowers by somebody probably who was walking out into the world, into a meadow. Like, that's meaningful to me. And, I feel like I'm liberating them from the book and putting them back into a kind of meadow. I do use the same things, the same ideas over and over again. I think of collage as a way of thinking, and if I'm not done thinking about it, like, I just keep making those collages. This was about 10 years ago, and this is a piece I just finished 3 weeks ago. I pick it up from the framer tomorrow, and it's the same basic idea. The plants in this case are from, they're chromolithographs from a field guide to wildflowers of the Alps. There's a close-up. And it's different because the materials come from a different source, but it's, I'm still like thinking through that same idea.
There's a question for
Yeah.
you, Billy.
Right.
Do you use an X-Acto knife to cut the flowers out of the book pages?
I do. I do most of my serious work in the summer because I have my day job is teaching, and that's like insulation foam. It just like expands to take up whatever space there is available. But in a summer, I can go through 1,000 X-Acto blades without any trouble at all. If you use an X-Acto blade, you know that when you make a cut, like sometimes you hear this little click and it means the very, very tip has broken off, and you might as well just get another blade. Like, there's no point. Even if the rest of it's sharp still, it's no good starting a cut without that point. So yes.
Another question is, what's the background?
These are pretty delicate. Normally I work on rag mat board, which is stiffer than paper or Bristol board, but still like neutral pH. But for these that are three-dimensional, I work on a wooden panel, because if the board were to bend at all, it would tear the paper flowers. So there's a mixed media ground painted on the wooden panel, and then these are glued onto it.
Okay,
But everything else you've seen has been on paper or board. I'm sorry, Barbara.
I'm sorry, what, just to continue that, which X-Acto is best? I have two so far and don't like either.
I use the number 11 blade, and I don't like the expensive, like carbon, like just the standard cheapest number 11 blade, I think is the best one. They're two like more expensive versions, and they're not as good as far as I'm concerned.
Thank you.
There's another question. Where do you get your books?
I do go to junk stores and antique stores, but I also shop on eBay. Like you can find anything from anywhere in the world now on eBay, and yeah, that's where I start. I do like I suppose this is to assuage my vestigial Catholic guilt that when I'm buying something at auction, like on eBay, I will only buy it if it's the opening bid. If somebody else wants it for something, I think they should have it instead of me cutting it up. So like that's how I like make myself feel a little better about that. Anything else? All right.
Yeah, two questions. One is, how do you make it three-dimensional, and do you back the flowers before mounting?
I do not back them at all. They're three-dimensional. I buy little wooden beads and paint them to match the background, and the wood, grips the glue fine. So I glue the little wooden beads to the back of the flowers, and then when that's dry, I put glue on that and put them into place on the collage.
Okay, that's it for the moment.
Okay, so here's an example of me like really beating a dead horse. This was a first collage. It was a set of illustrations from an entry in that famous encyclopedia, the Larousse illustrated encyclopedia. This is also tiny, about 3 inches by 5 inches. And there were illustrations on varieties of architecture around the world. And I thought, like, wouldn't it be cool if they were all in the same town? So I cut them out and glued them into, onto this landscape so they could be together. And I liked that idea. It didn't take very long. And all the images were from the same illustration. But, I thought, well, I'll explore that some more. And these are made from postcards, and that seemed to work out. And then these are made from like old books and old illustrations and architectural history books. And I liked that. And in fact, like, here's my other method of working, which is like identify something cool, gather a lot of them, glue them together, and then do that a bunch of times. It's pretty straightforward. So I tried an even bigger one. An image like this, buildings are really easy to cut out. They're very forgiving, and there are lots of straight edges. Something like this, assembling it doesn't take nearly as long as finding like enough of the images to make the thing I have in mind. Like the collecting is what can take months, or in some cases years, like once I have an idea. Anyway, so I went from there to, there was a client of a gallery where I was showing who said, we like that, but we really love Italy. Could you make one of only Italian buildings? And of course I can make one of only Italian buildings. So there's that. And then I went to 50 style. It's the same idea. I'm just exploring the same idea over and over again. And the fact that the materials are different is what makes it a different artwork, makes it mean differently. Like the homogeneity of mid 20th century American culture, like, is really reflected in how these houses, in the write-up in the catalog of house plans, it was like, every one of these is different. Find the house that's perfect for you. And they're like uniform, like there's no difference at all in these, which I found funny. And then I made another big one. This was, I thought maybe I was going to be done here. This is not much. This is maybe like 70 inches high. Like, surely I thought that would be enough, only it turns out it was not. These are relatively new. I made 4 more of these last year, made all out of postcards. And while I was buying the postcards for these, I ended up collecting also postcards of local monuments, and made this as well. It's called cold storage. It's sort of a response to our problematic discussion about what to do with public monuments that memorialize people who turns out like we're really crappy people. And, like, what do we do with that? This was expensive to make. It's not even that big, but there's probably 200 postcards here. And, they cost, like, I don't spend more than $1 or $2 per postcard, but that still made this, it took $300 worth of postcards to make this. There
was an earlier question that I had missed. How do you frame these?
I either use a mat or a spacer so that the plexiglass doesn't touch against the collage. But other than that, it's just standard. I do always use plexiglass because I'm kind of afraid of glass, like big pieces of glass. And I ship stuff pretty often and drive it places. Anyway, so plexiglass and spacers, sometimes with a mat and sometimes without. These really big ones, like these wouldn't have a mat. Like that's just impractical. It would be framed right to the edge of the collage, but with a spacer. Here's an image of my son when he was about 9. I took, there's that story about the invention of drawing, how the potter Buttati's daughter was in love with a man who was going away to war the next day, and she held up a lamp and traced around his silhouette. So she had this memory anchored in his physical presence. And that's such a beautiful story, I think. I mean, obviously apocryphal, but anyway, that's the way I made this of my boy. I had him sit still with his shoulder against the wall, and I traced around his silhouette. And then these are all cut from antique greeting cards, Father's Day cards and Easter cards and Christmas cards and Thanksgiving and Valentine's Day. Like all those postcards were full of so much tender love. And I thought, like, I could just like pile all of that into this sort of meditation on how much I love my son. He would be terribly embarrassed by this. He's 22 now and like totally uncool with how much I love him. This is cutting up postcards to make sort of a non-place out of postcards that really are for a specific place. What time is it?
Okay, right now it's 12:10.
Okay, gosh, my watch says it's 7 p.m. all of a sudden. Okay, so here's sort of a more specific way I respond to a text. This is a quote from Henry David Thoreau's journals. It's not a famous quote, like nobody reads the journals because it's like this 5,000-page rough draft. But in this quote, he talks about how the mountain on the horizon, the one you haven't been to, that's the most beautiful mountain. Like when you go there, it's like, then it's like messy, but the one you haven't gotten to yet, that is still your aspiration, that's the most beautiful mountain. And so I collected all these postcards of mountains, and I love thinking about what's on the back of those, and the fact that somebody, like maybe they're from New Jersey and they drove like in the late 40s out to the Rockies, and it's like sweaty and the kids were arguing and there was nowhere to go to the bathroom, but they get out there and they like send this perfect image of the mountains back to their friends in New Jersey who haven't been, to say, like how great this is. The mountains yesterday, they are wonderful. I can't express how superb they are. I hope you're well. So, and here's another one. There just isn't anything to compare with this in Jersey. Like there's a little bit of like poking the receiver of this postcard. You should come see it too, Walt. So I collected all those, and that, I mean, mountains are pretty specific. That probably took 1.5 years of collecting postcards to be able to make this work. This also didn't take, I mean, mountains are super forgiving. It doesn't take any time at all to cut out a mountain. There's a detail of it. But nobody can read what's behind all of those postcards, but I can. And I know that sentiment is built up into this piece. I also sometimes respond to other artworks. This is a really famous image by Norman Rockwell called Freedom from Want. It was painted during World War II. There were 4 freedom paintings that he did to sort of like remind people what we were fighting for. And the freedom from want was one of them. And this is always used as the iconic image of Thanksgiving. And they do have a big plump turkey, but look at the rest of the table. There's like some celery and some aspic and some fruit and something that's covered up. That's it for all these people. And this guy in the bottom right corner, he is super happy that he's going to have like celery and turkey for Thanksgiving dinner. So this is 1943, and I wanted to contrast that with the way American culture changed at the end of the war and how the recovery from that like really jump-started the kind of conspicuous consumerism that I think defines American culture today. So I collected all of these. They were the booklets of recipes that came with appliances that were sold in the 50s. Apparently lots of Jell-O and ham, and wanted to make this thing that really contrasted with the table in the Norman Rockwell piece in order to kind of make a point. Here's another image. This is called The Industrialist Attempts to Manufacture Longing. And it all started with that image in the top, in the center, which to me looks like a human heart. It's from a French technical encyclopedia, the article on casting, on metal casting. So I'm sure it wasn't a heart, like those were to pour the bronze in or whatever. But I cut up other pages from the technical encyclopedia and built this like giant contraption to like keep that fake heart alive. And in my mind, that fake heart is representative of love or longing. And that the idea that we like try to, like in a consumerist culture like our own, like we tie acquisition with happiness and like sort of how failed that is in the long run. Here's another one from that same French technical encyclopedia. It's called Remember Me. Here the tower is made of the machinery, not the machinery that is in clocks, not like clock parts, but the machinery used to make clock parts. So like the manufacture of time. And in the very center, there's this little window with forget-me-nots. And I was thinking about my dad when I made this. When my dad learned he had cancer, the thing he most regretted was that of his 5 grandsons, only one was old enough to remember him. Only one would grow up with this idea. And that word, remember me, that's what Hamlet's father says to Hamlet in the play. Like we have this need to like live on, even knowing that we're mortal, we have this need to live on in people's memory. And that's what this piece is about. Sort of like elaborately constructing like a sure memory, a forget-me-not, a thing you can't forget. And this is something I made just last month to see something new and detail. Sort of contrasts the microcosm and the macrocosm. I'm going to show a little bit of commercial art. Do I have 10 more minutes?
Yeah, before that though, there is a question here.
Yeah.
Do you ever photocopy the images to cut them up rather than use the originals?
I don't. I feel like that's like handing a hungry person a picture of bread instead of actually bread. Like the things themselves are important as things to me. So I don't use a reproduction ever. I use the thing.
Okay, yeah, 10 minutes more would be fine.
Okay. I do. This is a screenshot of my website. It's bifurcated on the splash page. You can look at fine art, or if you're an art director, you can find the illustration. And the illustrations don't look particularly different than the collages. And in fact, this thing above that hand on the right side, that's left over from the Swiss Atlas where I was making the heart. Here's some journal covers. So it's really the same vocabulary, the same language that I use. Just instead of an idea that I've had, it's an idea that a client has had. There's the collage on the left and the way it looked printed on the right. And Jean mentioned my sister is a columnist for the New York Times, and she's a brilliant writer. And Milkweed Editions, a publisher, published really before she started writing for the Times, a book of her essays. And they liked the idea of sort of a brother-sister novelty act, and like wanted me to be involved in Margaret pressed them to have me involved in the project as well. This is the cover, and then there are, I think, 18 illustrations inside of it, and these are 3 of them that deal with the essays that Margaret wrote, much of them about the natural world. And then I also last year had a book come out, a picture book. I didn't write it. I was contacted by the publisher. The art all went to press right before COVID struck. And in retrospect, representing breath by these little spiky things, was deeply misguided. But there was no way to know that at the time that the artwork was made. And just here's an interior spread and another one. And I'm just really quickly going to show how I got to this. The text compares your lungs, the branching of your brachii, to branches of a tree, an upside down tree. So here's the initial sketch that the client approved. And here was a more developed sketch that they approved, though I was thinking a figure off to the left would be good, and they declined. And then I started on the background, and I started by using the skies in this old German calendar. And I used that all the way through. I blew that up and, processed it digitally and made a cyanotype of it, and then painted that with gouache. So that was the background. And then to make the lungs, I started with the structure here, and then found something that felt sort of lung-like. This is an olive from an herbal, a reproduction of an herbal. Like I didn't reproduce it, but and then forming that into a lung shape and seeing what that looked like as leaves, and then making the collage that then I was going to make a cyanotype with. Then finding flowers on old greeting cards and cutting those out. The air was based on these little gold ornaments I found at the Metropolitan Museum of Art on a trip there. That's how they sort of converted into the air particles. And then that's back to the finished illustration again. That's all I've got, besides a shot of my studio, which is a mess, much more of a mess than this right now. And then on the sides of the room, you can't see, especially behind where I am with the camera, there's lots of storage where I have imagery sorted so that I can find it later. If you want to see more, I'm on Instagram. My handle is Billy Renkl. I have 2 different Facebook accounts. The personal Facebook account, which is not particularly personal, but does have a lot of political ranting and pictures of my dog. You're welcome. Like, if you send me a friend request, I'm happy to be friends. But if you don't want my politics, go with Billy Renkl Art, and that is just art. And there's my website and my email address if you have any questions. All right, I hope that didn't go too long.
No,
Perfect.
yeah, great. We thank you so much. It's very inspiring, I must say, and the extent to which you save and collect is mind-blowing.
That decision that I would only really make collages was in 1993, and I have been avidly collecting paper since then. I have a basement full of paper. It's a fire hazard. So, yeah.
Oh, gee. And then how can you find them? But you must be very meticulous about keeping them.
I spend a lot of time looking for things. Yeah. I know it's in there somewhere.
Shuffling through, right? That's great. That's quite wonderful. We thank you so much. Are there any other questions that came up for Billy?
Yes. What is the name of your illustrated children's book again, please?
It's called When You Breathe, and the author is Diana Farid, Farid. And it is available on Amazon, but you could also, I would encourage you to have your local independent bookstore order it if you'd like a copy of it. And then Margaret's book, the first book is Late Migrations. And she has a second book since then. Oh, I do have it here, which just won a giant prize, the PEN America Award for Essay Writing. That came out last year. I did the cover of that, but there are no interior illustrations. And we're working on another book.
Billy, I just want to say Late Migration's one of my favorites.
Oh, great, great, great. Isn't Margaret great? Isn't she a wonderful writer?
Wonderful. She's wonderful. I go back and I read each chapter and savor it. And it's just wonderful.
Yeah, I've known she was a great writer like since I was 5. And it's really encouraging to me that someone can have a first book almost at the age of 60 and have it be so wildly successful. It's really great that lots of people know what a great writer she is now.
I also want to say that one of my great treasures that I love is one of the cards that you and I swapped in the International Card Exchange. I love it.
Oh, right. Like Claire.
Actually, you sent me 2.
You're the one person that I could see on the screen that I do sort of know, besides Jean, who I've met in person. Thank you very much.
That's
Glad to
fun.
have you here today.
That's fun to know. Anybody else have questions or that they'd like to ask? Jean Hess?
You need to unmute yourself, Jane.
I did. Billy, earlier you mentioned an acrylic medium and you said you were going to share it with us. And I'm curious to hear what you have to say about your preference for it.
Oh, matte gel medium. I mean, gel medium is like the perfect glue. It's like acrylic paint like stays flexible and it doesn't shrink or expand with temperature much. It doesn't yellow. It's completely stable. And it's just acrylic paint that doesn't have the pigment in it. And if you use the matte, if you're a little bit messy with it, it dries flat and doesn't show up very much, unless you're gluing together really glossy things, which I don't ever do. So I don't use liquid medium because there's too much water and it makes things buckle a good bit. So I'm like firmly down with matte acrylic gel medium, and I have found Liquitex the best texture for me, that brand.
Thanks.
Oh, great. That's really important to know for me. I like that information.
Someone asked about the International Card Exchange.
I think Claire can answer that more than I can. She's been more involved, I think.
Claire?
Let me unmute here. It's the monthly International Collage Playing Card Exchange. I can put information in the chat about it. There is a group on Facebook, and the organizer of it, Llewellyn Giera, what she does is she sends out an email every month. You can opt in or opt out in any given month, and you swap with about 10 other people. And it truly is international. I got cards from France and Australia this month.
I think a lot of people participate, but she breaks it into 10 or 12 lumps of people.
She does. There's usually, in any given month, there's maybe 6 groups of 9 or 10, something like that. So it's manageable. It's manageable.
Yeah, I have really enjoyed being involved in that also.
It's a lot of fun. I'll put information in the chat.
Yes, thank you.
Hello. I wanted to say that I am so grateful because I feel like my heart has been affirmed. I found that when I first in high school saw Richard Hamilton's famous work, I felt like the images that he had taken had a witness that would have been diluted or even just obliterated had he drawn those images.
Right.
And so I started to collect postcards, and mostly postcards, which I've done, and just other things and I have this feeling of being a witness to a witness when I look at old magazines and postcards, and there is something there that I just appreciate our presenters affirming my heart for those images.
Thank you, Lucy. That's very kind.
More? Anyone?
Yes, I wrote a question in the chat and I'm wondering if it could get covered.
Just Just repeat it.
Yeah, let me see if I can find it. Yes. Have you ever tried to buy a very large, cheap batch of postcards and doing something with them, even if they are assorted with many different topics? I'm an avid postcard collector just for like valuable ones even, so I thought I'd ask.
I do buy lots of, like a lot of things, and I have bought postcards. Also, people are super generous. If they have something that's like too nice to throw away, but they don't really want to have it anymore, they are delighted to find a collage artist. And I've been given boxes of postcards also. That I sort through and take out what I want. And I teach a collage class at the university where I teach. And so the rest of the stuff goes to students.
Oh, okay.
That's lovely. Okay. Lucy, Lucy Hale, do you want to say that? You have to unmute, honey.
Okay, I'm sorry, that's just applause. I live in the city in Georgia where we have our state deaf school. So that's applause.
Great. Much applause for you. We have more questions for Billy because he has been so full of so much information and so many ideas and so inspiring. I hate to let him go.
Oh, you know what? I have one more tip. If you're cutting paper that is like brittle or fragile, like I'm right-handed, so my non-dominant hand, if I grow out this fingernail, I can like hold it so that I can cut with the X-Acto knife right against my fingernail and keep anything from crumbling. So if I'm in the studio, I always have this sort of unsightly long fingernail that I'm using to stabilize what I'm cutting.
I use a toothpick with the little sharp point.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, but it doesn't work too well. I'm not too good at cutting. Anybody else? Wow, this has been just wonderful. And
I have one question.
okay.
What do you use for backgrounds?
Do you mean what, like the substrate that I'm gluing on, or?
No, I know you use wood. I said you use the rag mat board, but I'm talking about the background with the flowers had lines in it.
That I wanted it to sort of look like grass, so I painted several layers of gesso on the wood and raked through it with a hair comb, and then another layer and more to get that texture, and then painted several layers of paint and then sanded it with an electric sander to get back through to some of those colors in the grooves, and then put one more transparent color of paint.
Because it has to be flat for the flowers to go on,
right,
unless you make them on those little things you said you put them on.
It does have to be flat, but that can, like, once you sand through those grooves and the layers of color, it feels much more three-dimensional than it actually is.
Okay. Beautiful backgrounds. I was very impressed with the
Thanks a lot.
Another question here. Do you teach your techniques? I'm assuming the question is whether you teach them online or give workshops or something like that. Is that true, Marie? Is that what you meant?
Yes, because you were saying you have a class, you have a university class, and I'm wondering if you only teach what do your students do? Do they copy you?
No, I do teach a class at the university, but I also teach workshops in person. I haven't ever taught online because I am so resolutely analog. That would just be a disaster to try to manage the technology of teaching online. But I teach in person. I've taught at Shake Rag workshops in Swanee, Tennessee. I'm teaching at Aramont this summer, and I've taught at Penland before, and I'm teaching at Penland in North Carolina next summer. And I don't have any secrets. I'm happy to, I mean, collage is just not that hard technique. Like it's not skill-based the way oil painting is skill-based. And I am happy to share like whatever I've learned from experience, but I haven't done it online.
I have a question.
Yes.
My question is, do you put a final coat on your pieces to?
I don't. I know some people do, and I have used. There's a really expensive spray that you can buy that like archivists and librarians use that can neutralize the acid in older paper if if it's from when they started using wood pulp. And I have used that in the past, but it's super expensive. But I don't seal them. I in my experience, I don't. Like that seems like sort of a smoke screen. I don't think it really, because the effect of light on making things fade is like a physics thing. It's not like the color gets away. The color changes physically.
Right.
And I like the fact that collage elements, like collages are made of unrelated things that have been forced into this conversation with each other. And I don't want to do anything to homogenize that, which I think like painting it with some kind of sealant does. It minimizes the difference in papers and printing techniques and stuff like that. So I don't it's going to last at least as long as I'm going to last. And then it really is somebody else's problem.
And people have said to me, what about the acid free? What about this? What about that? And I feel the same way you do. It's going to be around here as long as I am. So that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
One more question. Can I ask a question, Billy?
Sure.
Sure.
So-
The topic of sealing is interesting to me because when I work with super old publications, sometimes I feel like I have to seal them to keep them from crumbling. I don't worry. I know it changes the quality of the surface, but I haven't figured out any other way to preserve really old paper that's, say, already crumbling.
So the way that I do that, if it's like that brittle, I take it to my framer and ask them to dry mount it onto like a Japanese printmaking paper, like dry mount it onto a carrier sheet that is stable, and then I can still cut it up.
So if I iron paper on top of, say, a sort of a ironable backing that you use in sewing, it would be the same kind of thing, which I've done.
I don't know if that that iron-on interfacing is neutral pH or not. Like it might be, but you can get dry mount. You can get dry mount materials and put them on with your own iron.
Right. Thank you.
So that's what I do. If I feel like I have to use it and it's already brittle.
Yeah, and you don't know. You just don't know sometimes how something's going to behave once it's been framed.
Well, like in my experience, most stuff, like if it's framed well, it's sealed up and it's safe. Those things are pretty stable. Like I've never had anything fall apart just sort of spontaneously if it had been carefully framed.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Last call. More questions?
One more in the chat. Do you frame under glass with a mat?
I do. The glass has to be lifted off the collage. So either, like a wooden or a plastic spacer along the edge or a mat. Like that's the job of the mat as far as I'm concerned, to provide some space. I don't use glass. I use plexiglass because I'm frightened of glass.
More? Anyone else? Any last words, Bill?
Nope. Thank you very much. You're all very generous, and I'm grateful for this opportunity.
Well,
Thank you.
So inspiring.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Sure.
Wow.
I'm gonna go ahead and leave in case you have some other business to do, but you know how to get, like I'm easy to find. I'm the only Billy Renkl as long as you spell Renkl correctly. I'm easy to find.
Well,
If you have
let's
other questions.
thank you one more time.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
There were a lot of,
Come to
well,
California.
yeah. Now, if there's any new members who want to take a few moments and introduce yourself. I know that we had a few here.
Hi, I'm Susan Menschel.
There you go.
I love collage. I've been doing collages for decades now that I'm retired from both a nursing career and interior design. I have more time to devote to collage and mixed media acrylic painting. So I don't have a website yet, but I do post on Facebook. So you can find me there, and I'll put my Facebook page name on the chat.
Great.
Great.
Love to do all your work.
Welcome.
too, and hear from you. Thank you. I love this group so far.
Good, welcome.
Thank you.
Several of our new members are not here anymore. That's too bad. Okay.
Then
Somebody's
I want to
waving.
also open it
Elsie.
up to any announcements that anybody might have to make about shows they're in or something else they might want to share with us. Now's your chance. Anyone?
Well, yeah, this is Marie Chapin in San Diego, and I am in the Oceanside Museum of Art Alliance juried show. And it's at the Front Porch Gallery now, and it runs, I think, a month.
Ah, congratulations.
Thank you. It's hard to get into. Thank you.
Claire Standish here. I'm in Uniontown, Pennsylvania, and I'll have a piece in a show called Corporeal Gestures at the School of Architecture at Portland State University in Portland, Oregon. And it's running from April 4th until the 29th.
Ah, wonderful.
Congrats.
Great. That sounds great.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
This is Lucy. I noticed that another member of the Women's Caucus for Art Georgia was here today, Jean, and we have just had a meeting that was an art share, and we made it into an opportunity to take and post a photo that supported Ukrainians, especially Ukrainian artists. And I thought that might be something that some of us in this group might want to do in some way, because I have been contacted by the Reese Museum in Tennessee, who had a Polish artist who was asking for US support, just really more emotional support for Polish folks who are sheltering Ukrainians and for Ukrainians. So if she said it helps them to endure, just to know that people are concerned internationally, especially Americans. So if you find some way to post something that could sometime get back to Poland or Ukraine, this might be the time to do it.
That sounds so interesting.
We held a flag that was a really rough flag of yellow and blue and sent that to this Polish artist who had contacted the Reese Museum. Her connection is that she does socially and politically engaged art, and that there is a yearly exhibit at that museum, and that's how they knew her.
And you said this is Women's Caucus?
The Women's Caucus for Art nationally, and a member of the, well, Jean's a member, I think, of the, is that not right of the, I thought I recognized this as member of the Georgia chapter. I'm a member of the Georgia and the Alabama chapters. But we put together, I'll probably put it on my website, but we are putting it on the WCAGA website. Just all of us standing there with the flag and the sunflower.
You might post it on Facebook as well.
Well, that's true.
Yeah, and there's another group called IAA USA that I belong to and have not been active in it, but it's called IAA, which is International Art Association, and I'll send you, Lucy, that link.
Because I'm a member of the caucus for in California.
Yeah, the Southern
I haven't been
California.
active
Yeah.
lately, so I'm going to look at that.
I think
We're
that
doing
National would be receptive to putting,
Mhm.
Pictures from any kind of a rally or just acknowledgement that any of us
Mhm.
put together. I haven't tried to do that yet. It's just happened.
Yeah,
Oh, great.
good idea.
Somebody asked who do we tag on Ukrainian art? That was, let's see. Yeah. You mean who do you tag for Facebook or Instagram or?
Yeah.
Are you asking, I don't know what I mean. Are you asking me?
Yeah, I think she's asking.
I haven't really done anything much with it yet. I just got it done. And then I've not ever used Facebook. I'm going to have to, because I've always had a feeling that the venue was used in a cavalier fashion and it promoted. I'm from Georgia. My House of Representatives elected official is Marjorie Taylor Greene. And I always felt like the Facebook had a lot to do with her developing a following. So I'm not on Facebook. I may have to do something like that, but I have resisted it forever. But I will. I can get somebody else. I think I'm gonna. Since we have 12,000 people in Collage Arts of America. I don't think I can resist that. I'll have to be on Facebook. 12,000 people. My goodness.
Well, one of the things you do as an artist on Facebook is you only friend artists and you can research them, and or you create just a Lucy Julia Hale artist on there, and you ignore politics.
Do tell me, how do you do that, Suzanne?
As much as you can, or if you can see it, but don't respond.
Yeah, it was more or less, I've always been in the League of Women Voters, and when you're in the governance and that you can't do anything political. But the reason I'm not on it is because not that I would have, it's not a personal thing of being affronted by politics. It's just that I live in an area that has sexism and racism that's endemic and historic. And I believe that Facebook actually allowed that to grow. They actually helped seed it here.
Yeah.
That's not good. Well, you could use a somewhat alias name too on Facebook.
Yeah.
You could just use your first name and your middle name and that's it.
Well, I'm not afraid. I mean, I'm openly doing
No, I know.
I just thought I just disagreed with their business practice.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Well,
I think a lot of us do.
Yeah.
But then we're connected so much through the art world. I mean, I've met so many artists that way. It is hard to.
I know it was a sacrifice, I thought, but and especially my family hated it, but I didn't do it.
I bet. Yeah.
But and other people, but I think it's maybe time. I don't feel so definite about it now because it's been exposed more. But when it was just a happy family, and I didn't think I thought it was a big dysfunctional family, I didn't want to be involved with it.
Totally.
There's another, it's LinkedIn, which a lot of the artists are on as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see, are there any other announcements that anybody wanted to make? Well, with that, I think that has been a very informative and interesting meeting, I think. And I hope that you all will join us again for our next meeting, and be sure to tune in for the reception on April 9th. Anybody else have any last words?
I just want to thank Jean. What a great presenter you found again. So kudos.
Thank you, Jean. You've been doing a fantastic.
Oh my gosh.
Yes,
great
you
job.
have.
She joined our board and jumped in and just has been wailing.
All during the pandemic.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah,
thank you.
Sylvia.
Barbara, and what?
I don't know if you want to mention something about Marilyn Stemple.
Oh, gee, yes. We have a member.
Two members, actually. I meant Marilyn as a board member.
Yes, Marilyn was a board member joining us just most recently, after she had been a long hiatus before she was in our in Collage Artists years ago. And she was ill when she joined, and she had passed on. She was only with us a short time, but she jumped in and worked her fanny off to the last minute. And then another dear friend, help me with her name, Suzanne.
Betty Tokar.
Betty Tokar. She was also a personal friend, and she was with one of the early founders and worked with the original group. And she did really wonderful art and collages, and she too has passed on, and we miss her. And Marilyn both. So that's the sad news. And but the good news is all of our new members that are joining us, and our show that's going up, and all the things we have to look forward to. So, thank you all for joining us today.
Thank you.
Share love with everyone you know. And we'll see you next time.
Great to see so many faces from around the country.
Take care, everybody.
Bye, Elsie. Thank you for joining.
Bye.
Bye,
You will.
Bye, Laura.
Bye, Laura.
Bye, Laura.
Sylvia, could you stay on for a minute? Whoops, did I lose you? Here,
No,
there you.
Yeah, I'm
Could you
here.
stay on for just a second afterwards? I want to
Certainly, sure.
talk. It's dance talk, nothing secret.
Shoot. No good gossip. All right, fine.
Yeah.
Oh, gossip. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Mwah, mwah.
Anyway, Sylvia, there's a barbecue joint in Northridge, not too far from us. And on Friday and Saturday night, they have one or two musicians, and it's outside. The musicians there from 6 to 8, sometimes awful, sometimes wonderful, and you dance on the sidewalk.
Oh.
So if you have any interest, we are going to go tonight. We only do a couple of dances because, you know, Mark's not up to it, but they have good barbecue food.
Oh, where is it in Northridge?
It's in Northridge. It's at Reseda in Devonshire. It's called All American Barbecue.
American Barbecue.
Very informal.
Okay. Riverside, what did you say? Reseda and Devonshire?
Right.
I tell you, I am exhausted, so I don't think I'm going to make it, but because I've been dealing with 3 or 4 different subjects and chaos in each one of those things. But I'll talk to Miles, and if he wants to go, I'll let you know.
Okay, great.
But
I don't know yet who the musicians will be tonight. I will. I usually give them a call around 2 o'clock. And if it's the steel drum, we don't go.
Actually, I like a steel drum, but you can't dance to it.
Yeah, right.
But let me know, and if we don't do it tonight, we could do it some other night.
Sounds great.
When you go, yeah, that'll be fun.
Okay. Terrific. Good meeting. Really good meeting today.
Yeah. Oh, thanks. I hope so. I think it went well. Thanks to you. I don't know what we would do without you.
Oh, you do fine.
No, are you kidding? Hold it all together. All right.
Anyway, so take care. Rest up.
Okay, you too. And have fun tonight if we don't go.
Okay, thanks.
Have fun without us. Okay, darling. Bye-bye.
Okay.